Hello friends, welcome to patch overview 5.23. My name is Mr. EpiX and today I will go through the changes in the most recent league patch. This patch includes changes to reduce XP snowballing, a few ability updates and changes to some melee champions' attack ranges, and a new champion. So, let's get into it. Patch 5.23 is the patch of the new champion, Eloi.
Welcome to the League of Legends Champion Spotlight, featuring Eloi, the Kraken Priestess.
The new champion, Eloi. Ashe can now crit on a few of her Q arrows and not either all of them or none of them. Renown's Hurricane also works with it and turns blue when Q is active. The Seer gets a few more quality of life fixes, nothing out of the ordinary. Bard's Chimes and Skarner's Crystals now spawn 15 seconds earlier in line with the new game starting time. Caitlyn no longer says
boom, headshot
every 2 seconds with her new passive in the Hurricane, and her Q's damage falls off less after the first target hit. This means her poking through minion waves will be slightly stronger, 7% damage on Q stronger. Kha'Zix gets 3 more armor and Q costs less mana to beef him up in the jungle. Lucian gets his expected ult nerf and a slight base AD reduction. Misfortune now has a lot less health and her W no longer grants as much attack speed on higher ranks. Mordekaiser can no longer flash one-shot people with Q, but will have to settle for ×3×3×6 amount of damage instead of tripling it with each hit. His W does less damage early and more late, and his E gives more shield per rank when hitting champions. Dragon Ghost is also nerfed. Quinn can now blind again, ish. Her Q no longer deals damage based on missing health or funds cooldown when killing stuff, but now applies a semi-blind, reducing vision radius to 300 and removing any allied vision including wards. If cast on non-champions, it paralyzes targets. Zed's W gets a range and cast speed buff, and his ult now deals more of your damage done on early ranks. Cillian now gives a minimum amount of XP to his allies when using the passive, granting it onto the next level as well. Meganar, Shyvana, Sion, Trundle and Zac get their attack range increased while Tahm Kench's is reduced. Nunu's consume buff that increases size also no longer grants attack range. You can now toggle abilities when CC'd. Aatrox, Cho'Gath and Jinx will be more happy in tricky situations. A bunch of champions and skins are now bigger or smaller. In general, champions that are more tanky and can take a few hits are now larger, and the more squishy league members are now smaller. I think it's safe to say that at least this guy deserves it. We also have a few item changes. Hunter's Talisman gets a buff and deals 5 more burn damage, which should help mage junglers early on. Refillable Potion is now a more viable option to the 3-pot start. Ginsu's Rage Blade has finally gotten its nerf in the form of a combined cost increase of 300 gold. This item has been tearing up the game during last patch, and I'd be surprised if this is the last change to it. Static Shiv is no longer as effective when fighting champions, and the Home Guard boot enchantment has been removed. Not the effect though. From 20 minutes onwards, everyone gets a free Home Guard when they return to the fountain. While not quite as strong as before, it makes the other enchantments more viable. There are some more map changes this patch as well. The Rift Herald will get a spawn and death animation, deal slightly less damage and overall be a more appealing objective. Death timers are going to be longer early game but shorter late game. This is going to change up some of the dynamics of the game, but that's what preseason is for. The inner and the outer turrets now have 4k health instead of 3.5k, which makes the early pushing slightly harder. All jungle camps now take more magic damage. Brand Jungle, here I come. Smite now begins charging 5 seconds earlier, and the ambient gold in game starts 5 seconds later to get people into lane instead of waiting for potions. Who does that now anyway? Killing champions that are the same level as you now gives slightly less XP, so you will no longer see as much of the situations where people are 4 levels down in lane. This patch also includes another minion block fix. I hope it works this time. And finally, the changes to minion pushing are here. This is gonna be a bit complicated, but I'll go through them. If you're just interested in hearing about the general stuff, the minions will deal more damage to and take less damage from enemy minions if you're ahead. These changes won't be turned on immediately though, so you have at least a few days to say farewell to your current wave manipulation. So, let's first define the terms level advantage and turret advantage. Turret advantage is how many turrets you have taken down compared to your opponent. If you took 3 turrets on your lane and only lost 1, you have a turret advantage of 2. Level advantage is your whole team's average level compared to your opponent's average level. Let's look at an example of a game. You get the average level of the team by adding the levels of all team members and then dividing it by the amount of members, 5. So here I'm playing Lux, and my team's average level is currently 15.6, while the enemy team's is 14.6. This means we have a level advantage of 1. Minions will deal extra damage to enemy minions equal to 5% plus 5% per turret advantage in that lane, multiplied by your level advantage. If we assume that we have a lane in this example with a turret advantage of 2, our minions would be dealing 5% plus 5 times 2% more damage, multiplied by 1. 15% more damage done to enemy minions. While your team has a level advantage, your minions also take less damage from the enemy minions, equal to 1 plus level advantage times turret advantage in that lane. Using the same example as earlier, the minions in the lane with a turret advantage of 2 would take 3 less damage. Overall, this affects the lane balance quite a bit and makes lanes push towards the enemy base more than before if you're ahead. This does however also mean that the enemies get the minions closer to them, being able to farm more safely. For pushing, it's great, but make good use of it or they might make a comeback from the safe gold income. Let's move on. Next up is a couple of changes to Masteries. Bond of Stone is nerfed when alone from 4% to 2% damage reduction. Thunderlord's Decree has a decreased cooldown by 10 seconds from 30 to 20, and Perseverance gets a tooltip fix. Bond of Stone is no longer going to be the most efficient choice when going solo, but on the other hand you now have more viable choices. This patch also includes a new thing called Promo Helper. Promotion series in Ranked have always been kind of a problem. A lot of people have complained about them since they depend on you getting the wins those exact games, and if you keep getting the unlucky losses it prevents you from climbing. If you're below Platinum, Promo Helper will give you a free win in promotions you've already been in and failed. If you do get demoted however, it resets for that promo. If you get demoted back to somewhere you've already climbed from, then you get free wins when you enter the promo that you've already succeeded once. For division promos you can get 1 win credit, and between tiers you can get 2, 1 per fail or both if you passed it before. Keep in mind that these will reset when the season starts again. Lastly are a couple of neat quality of life implementations in the form of chat history and one-on-one conversations and server-side item sets. You can now see 100 messages back in the history with someone for 10 days, and item sets will no longer be locally saved and lost when you reinstall or switch computers. There are also a few nice skins coming out as usual, and that will be it for this patch overview. Good luck and see you on the Rift!